A black woman came in to clean and saw a crying baby. When the millionaire saw his son calm down, he changed, but not in the way you might think. "Where is my Rolex watch?" Richard Blackstone's voice echoed through the penthouse like thunder. His angry eyes scanned every corner of the luxurious 300-square-meter room until they landed on Monica, who was silently organizing the cleaning products. The 32-year-old woman stopped what she was doing and looked directly at the businessman. "I don't know anything about a watch, Mr. Blackstone." "Of course you do." Richard lunged toward her, his face red with anger. "You were the only person who entered my closet today. A $50,000 submariner doesn't just disappear." Monica stood tall, her hands firmly gripping the cleaning cloth. Working for elite cleaning services for 5 years had taught her how to deal with difficult customers, but something about Richard's tone today was different. More cruel. More personal. "I can check my purse if that will make you feel better," she offered calmly, though inside she felt the familiar pang of indignation that always accompanied these situations. "Oh, you'll be sure to check." Richard grabbed his cell phone. "And the police will take a look too. People like you always think they can take advantage of hardworking people like me." It was at that moment that a desperate cry echoed through the apartment. Richard's baby, little 6-month-old Thomas, was in his crib in the next room, crying with an intensity that made Monica frown. This wasn't normal crying from hunger or sleep, it was something deeper, more distressing. "His son is crying," she observed. Richard didn't even look in the direction of the bedroom. "The nanny takes care of that. Now open that bag." But the crying only intensified, and Monica couldn't ignore it. Against all the rules of cleaning protocol, she walked to the baby's room. What she saw shocked her. Thomas was alone, his diaper dirty from hours of crying, his face red from crying, and no nanny in sight. "Hi, little one," Monica whispered, approaching him carefully. Her maternal instincts, developed from caring for her nephews, took over. "What's going on here?" She quickly checked to see if Thomas was okay, changed his diaper, and picked him up. In a matter of seconds, the baby stopped crying completely, nestling into her arms as if he had finally found the comfort he was looking for. "What the hell are you doing?" Richard appeared at the door, still holding his cell phone. "Put my son down right now." Monica carefully handed Thomas over, but the moment Richard took him, the baby started crying intensely again. Richard tried rocking him, talking to him, but nothing worked. Thomas seemed inconsolable in his own father's arms. "I don't understand," Richard muttered, clearly frustrated. "He stopped crying with you in seconds." "Babies sense tension," Monica explained simply. "When adults are nervous or aggressive, they notice." Richard stared at her with a mixture of surprise and irritation. "Are you implying that I'm a bad father?" "I'm just explaining why your son calmed down with me." For a brief moment, something changed in Richard's gaze. A spark of curiosity, perhaps even respect. But it lasted only seconds before the arrogance returned. "Well, what a convenient coincidence," he said, his voice heavy with sarcasm. "The same person who steals my watch also has a magic touch with babies. What a well-crafted story." Monica took a deep breath. For years, she had swallowed prejudiced comments, suspicious looks, and veiled accusations. But this time, something was different. This time, she wasn't going to back down. "Mr. Blackstone," she said, her voice calm but firm, "let me make one thing clear. I did not take your watch. And if you're determined to accuse me without proof, I suggest you call the police. I'm sure they'll be very interested in investigating everything." Her tone made Richard hesitate for a moment. There was something about Monica's confidence, the way she held his gaze, that made him slightly uneasy. As if she knew something he didn't. "That's right," Monica continued, organizing her materials, "a full investigation. Security cameras, records, history, everything." Richard watched as she worked with precise, calculated movements, like someone who had absolutely nothing to hide. Worse, like someone who had perhaps been waiting for this moment. What Richard Blackstone couldn't imagine was that this false accusation had just awakened something in Monica that had been dormant for years. And when you underestimate someone who has been through much worse, you're not just making a mistake, you're signing your own death warrant. If this story of injustice and determination has touched you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Because what happens next will show you that sometimes the most underestimated person in the room is exactly the one you should fear. Monica's unshakable confidence unsettled Richard for just a few seconds. Soon, his natural arrogance reassumed control, and he misinterpreted her calmness completely. Full investigation? Richard laughed cruelly. Perfect. The more evidence, the better. He typed frantically on his cell phone. I'm sending a message to the entire elite cleaning services team. I want them to know exactly what kind of employee you have. Monica continued organizing her materials, but her jaw tightened slightly. She knew this pattern all too well. During 5 years of cleaning homes for the elite, she had witnessed dozens of similar situations, missing objects that magically reappeared after the domestic worker had been publicly humiliated. In fact, Richard continued, clearly emboldened by his own venom, I'm going to post this on my social media as well. I need to warn other employers about people like you. Something changed in the air when Richard uttered those last words. Monica stopped moving completely, her eyes meeting his with an intensity that made the businessman take an involuntary step backward. People like me, she repeated slowly. How interesting. And what kind of person am I, Mr. Blackstone? Richard hesitated, realizing he had stepped on dangerous ground, but his ego would not allow him to back down. People who take advantage of others' trust. Who think they can walk into family homes and steal, Monica finished for him. Is that what you were trying to say? Richard's phone vibrated. A message from his lawyer, meeting cancelled. Urgent family matter. Richard ignored it, too focused on his personal crusade to notice the first sign that his day was about to fall apart. You know what's interesting, Mr. Blackstone? Monica closed her briefcase with precise movements. In 5 years of working for families like yours, this is the first time someone has accused me of theft. First time you got caught, Richard retorted with disdain. Or the first time someone lost something and automatically blamed the only black person in the room. The words came out with an icy calm that made Richard swallow hard. Richard's cell phone vibrated again. Then once more. He ignored it, determined to maintain control of a situation that was clearly slipping through his fingers. Listen here, Richard approached her, trying to intimidate her with his physical presence. I've known people like you forever. You come in with this dignified attitude, but deep down. Deep down what? Monica turned completely toward him, and for the first time Richard noticed something in her eyes that made him question whether he had chosen the wrong person to humiliate. Thomas began to cry again from the bedroom, but this time neither of them moved. The tension in the apartment had become almost palpable. I'll tell you something about people like me, Monica said, picking up her purse. We grow up learning that the truth always comes out. Always. And when it does, those who lied pay a very high price. Richard laughed forcedly. Are you threatening me? I'm just letting you know how the real world works. Monica walked toward the door. Oh, and Mr. Blackstone? I suggest you check your pockets. And maybe your car. Men like you have a habit of blaming others for their mistakes. Richard's phone exploded in a flurry of notifications. This time, he looked. 12 missed messages. 3 missed calls. All from his office. Where do you think you're going? He shouted after Monica. The police are on their way. Great, she replied, standing in the doorway. I love the police. Especially when they see the building's security cameras. Richard frowned. What cameras? The cameras that show everything that happens in the hallways, elevators, and parking lot of this building. The same ones that will show that I arrived here at 9 this morning and haven't left once since then. Monica smiled for the first time. But mostly, the ones that will show where you really lost your watch. That's when Richard started to sweat. Not just because of what Monica said, but because of how she said it, like someone who already knew exactly what those cameras would reveal. His phone rang. The name on the screen made his blood run cold. Private investigator urgent. Excuse me, Monica said politely. I need to find my next house. But don't worry, Mr. Blackstone. I'm sure we'll get to the bottom of this today. As she disappeared down the hallway, Richard finally answered the phone with trembling hands. Mr. Blackstone? The investigator's voice was tense. We need to talk. Right away. It's about your wife. Richard felt the world spin. My wife? She's not even in town. That's exactly what we need to talk about. Each new humiliation only fueled something inside Monica that her oppressors couldn't see, a silent strength being strengthened by the very injustice they tried to impose on her. What Richard Blackstone didn't know was that every act of contempt was writing his own sentence of defeat, while the woman he was trying to destroy carried secrets that would turn his perfect life to ashes. The call from the private investigator completely changed Richard's tone of voice. "What do you mean, it's about my wife? Victoria is in Miami visiting her mother." "Mr. Blackstone, I need you to sit down. Your wife is not in Miami. She has been in Las Vegas for 3 weeks, with another man." Richard's world collapsed in a matter of seconds. "That's impossible. She calls me every day." The calls are made from her cell phone, but through apps that mask the location. "I have photos, hotel records, and other evidence." While Richard processed his wife's betrayal, Monica was in the parking lot of the building making a call to her sister. "Carmen, I need you to do me a favor. Remember that private security course I took before I came to the United States?" "Sure, you were the best student in the class." "Why?" "I need you to contact our instructor, Detective Martinez. Tell him Monica Santos needs a little professional favor." Carmen hesitated. "Sister, are you in trouble?" "Not yet," Monica smiled, watching the building's security cameras. "But someone will be soon." What no one knew about Monica was that before moving to the United States, she had worked for 5 years as a private investigator in Jamaica. She wasn't just a cleaning lady, she was a woman with a degree in criminology who had chosen cleaning jobs to support her graduate studies in forensic psychology. 30 minutes later, Detective Martinez returned her call. "Monica Santos. My best former student. What can I do for you?" "I need legal access to the security footage from a building. And maybe a little investigation into a man named Richard Blackstone." "Leave it to me. How soon do you need it?" 2 hours would be perfect." Meanwhile, Richard was trying to deal simultaneously with the revelation about his wife and the police who had finally arrived to investigate the theft of the watch. The 2 officers, Detective Johnson and Detective Rodriguez, listened to his version of events with increasingly skeptical expressions. "So you're saying that a cleaning lady stole your watch, but you're not sure when or how?" Detective Johnson jotted down notes on his pad. "She was the only person who entered my closet today." "And where exactly did you last see the watch?" Richard hesitated. The truth was, he couldn't remember. With all the confusion of the last few days, meetings, travel, problems with nannies, his routine was completely out of whack. I always leave it on the nightstand." Detective Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. "Always? Are you absolutely certain about that?" Just then, Richard's phone rang again. His family lawyer. "Richard, I just got a very strange call. Someone is asking questions about you at the office. Questions about your professional conduct, your employment history. Are you under investigation for something?" Richard's stomach lurched. "What kind of questions?" "About how you treat employees, if there have been any complaints of discrimination, if..." The line went dead. Richard tried to call back, but it went straight to voicemail. The police continued their investigation when Detective Johnson received a message. "Mr. Blackstone, we just received an interesting report. The building's security cameras show the employee arriving at 9 in the morning and not leaving until now. They also show you leaving last night at 11:45 and returning today at 8:15. And what's the problem?" "The problem," Detective Rodriguez continued, "is that the same cameras show you dropping something in the parking lot last night when you got out of your car. Something that glinted in the light." Richard's face paled. That doesn't prove anything." "Actually, it does. The building's security team found this an hour ago." Detective Johnson showed him a plastic bag containing a Rolex watch. "It was under your car, Mr. Blackstone." The humiliation was complete. Richard had accused an innocent woman of theft when he himself had carelessly lost his watch. But the worst was yet to come. Detective Martinez called Monica with information that made her smile for the first time in weeks. "Monica, you won't believe what I found out about this Richard Blackstone. He has a history of 3 racial discrimination lawsuits in the last 5 years. All settled out of court with a gag order. And there's more." "Go on." His company is being investigated by the IRS for tax evasion. And from the looks of it, he's about to lose everything. His wife is filing for divorce and half his assets. The man is desperate. Monica processed the information carefully. Richard Blackstone wasn't just a prejudiced man. He was a prejudiced, desperate man with a history of discriminatory behavior. Exactly the kind of person who needed a public lesson. Detective Martinez, I need one more favor. Do you still have contacts in the investigative press? Yes, I do. Why? Because a story is about to be told. And this time, it will be told correctly. When Richard was finally alone in his apartment after the police left, he looked at the watch he had recovered. For a moment, he considered calling the cleaning company and apologizing. But his wounded pride spoke louder. She may have proven she didn't steal the watch, he muttered to himself, but she's still just a cleaning lady. What harm can she do to me? That question would be answered very soon. Because while Richard completely underestimated the woman he had humiliated, Monica was 3 steps ahead, orchestrating a life lesson that would make Richard rethink every prejudiced choice he had ever made. What Richard couldn't imagine was that his arrogant question, "What harm can a cleaning lady do to me?" was about to become the greatest irony of his privileged life. Richard spent the afternoon trying to control the damage like a captain trying to plug holes in the Titanic. His wife wasn't answering her phone, his lawyer had mysteriously disappeared, and 3 major clients had canceled contracts after receiving worrying information about his professional conduct. At 5 p.m., his phone rang with an unknown number. Mr. Blackstone? This is Jennifer Walsh from Channel 7 News Investigative. We are preparing a story on workplace discrimination and would very much like your side of some very serious allegations. What allegations? Richard felt cold sweat run down his back. We have documentation of 3 racial discrimination cases in the last 5 years, all settled with very generous non-disclosure agreements. And today we received an extremely detailed account of an incident involving an Afro-Jamaican employee. Richard hung up on the reporter, but the phone immediately rang again. This time it was Marcus, his senior partner, his voice raised in panic. Richard, what the hell is going on? The press is calling the office asking about discrimination lawsuits. I got a strange call from someone saying you have a systematic pattern of problematic behavior with black employees. While Richard tried to explain the inexplicable, Monica sat comfortably in a fancy cafe 3 blocks away, talking to Detective Martinez and an imposing woman. Monica, this is Dr. Patricia Williams, one of the most respected civil rights attorneys in the country. She personally represented the 3 female employees who previously sued Blackstone. Dr. Williams opened an impressively thick file on the table. Miss Santos, your situation is virtually identical to the other women. Black female employees, completely false accusations, clear attempts at intimidation and public humiliation. The crucial difference is that you documented absolutely everything in real time. How so? Your phone was recording during the entire incident today. Did you plan this? The lawyer asked with professional curiosity. Monica smiled for the first time in weeks. Let's just say that years of working as a private investigator in Jamaica taught me to always be prepared. Especially when I start noticing extremely suspicious patterns of behavior. Detective Martinez laughed admiringly. You planned this from the beginning? Not exactly from the beginning. But when I started working for elite families, I quickly realized that I needed to protect myself from situations like this. I research all my clients thoroughly before accepting any job. When I saw Mr. Blackstone's troubled history, I set my phone to automatically record whenever I'm working on his property. Dr. Williams took another document from the file. And there's much more. The building security footage clearly shows that he blatantly lied to the police about several crucial details of the incident. We have him red-handed for false reporting. At that very moment, Richard was facing the worst professional nightmare of his privileged life. The company's board of directors had convened an emergency meeting after receiving a devastatingly comprehensive dossier on his history of discrimination. Richard, said Margaret Chun, the board chair, her voice icy, we have received some extremely troubling documentation. Not just about the previous labor lawsuits, but about an incident that happened today that was completely recorded. This is total nonsense. You falsely accused a female employee of theft based solely on the fact that she is black, interrupted another board member. And this entire conversation was recorded without your knowledge. 37 minutes of crystal clear audio. Richard felt the world collapse around him as Margaret slid a tablet across the table. On the screen, her own voice was unmistakably clear. People like you always think you can take advantage of hard-working people like me, and then I've known people like you forever. That's completely out of context. Is it? Margaret continued playing the recording. Because we have the entire conversation, including you saying verbatim that you're going to alert other employers about people like her. Richard's phone vibrated with a notification that made his blood run cold. Channel 7 News on Twitter. Coming up, elite executive has history of systemic discrimination exposed by employee who documented everything. Special broadcast at 7 p.m. Richard, Margaret closed the tablet with a sharp click. The board has decided unanimously, you are suspended indefinitely. And we strongly recommend that you seek legal assistance immediately. At 7 p.m., Richard was alone in his penthouse apartment, watching his life be methodically torn apart on national television. Reporter Jennifer Walsh was live. A new case shocks the community as exclusive recordings reveal the systematically discriminatory behavior of Richard Blackstone, a senior executive at one of the city's largest investment firms. The full audio was played in its entirety. Every prejudiced word, every false accusation, every attempt at intimidation was exposed for the entire city to hear. Richard's phone exploded with notifications, clients canceling contracts, acquaintances expressing deep concern, his social and professional life disintegrating in real time. The coup de grace came at 9 p.m., when Victoria finally called from Las Vegas. Richard, I'm watching the news here at the hotel. My lawyer says this drastically complicates our separation. Victoria, please listen. No, Richard. For years I swallowed your jokes about employees, your comments about certain people. I thought it was just immaturity. But this reveals exactly who you really are. You can't abandon me now. The divorce settlement has completely changed. My lawyer wants 50% of absolutely everything, including your share of the company. After all, who's going to want to do business with a man who appears on national television talking like that about black employees? While Richard faced the total collapse of his privileged existence, Monica was quietly at home preparing dinner. Detective Martinez called with a final report that made her smile with genuine satisfaction. The Federal Department of Civil Rights is opening a formal investigation into his company. The IRS has expedited the tax audit after the public exposure. And Dr. Williams has successfully reopened the cases of the other 3 women. Her phone rang again. Monica Santos? This is David Chun from Chen & Associates. We are an internationally renowned corporate security firm. We saw your story in the news and would love to talk to you about a position as a senior investigator with a starting salary of $80,000 a year. Richard Blackstone had discovered in the most humiliating way possible that underestimating someone based on prejudice not only revealed his own rotten character, it created the perfect scenario for his own complete destruction. When you deliberately choose to humiliate a person who has all the tools necessary to defend herself, you're not just committing an injustice, you're handing her all the weapons she needs to completely rewrite your story and reduce your arrogance to ashes. 6 months later, Monica Santos sat in her office on the 23rd floor of Chen & Associates, supervising a team of 12 investigators. The panoramic view of the city stretched out through the glass windows, a stark contrast to the apartments she used to clean. Miss Santos, her assistant announced over the intercom, reporter Jennifer Walsh is here for the interview about the Civil Rights Defender of the Year award. The public recognition had come as a surprise. Her courage in documenting and exposing Richard's discriminatory behavior had inspired other victims to come forward, creating a wave of change in the city's labor policies. Monica, Jennifer smiled as she entered, how does it feel to know that your story changed the law on protective recordings for domestic workers? Satisfied, but not surprised. The truth always finds a way to the surface, especially when you give it a little help, Monica replied with a confident smile that had become her trademark. Her investigative firm had grown exponentially. Clients came specifically asking for the woman who took down Blackstone. 3 large corporations hired her for internal discrimination audits, paying fees that exceeded her former cleaning salary tenfold. Meanwhile, across town, Richard Blackstone pushed a shopping cart through a neighborhood supermarket. His fall had been brutal and complete. The company had fired him permanently, Victoria had taken half his assets in the divorce, and no reputable firm would hire him after his national exposure. The penthouse apartment had been sold to pay legal bills. Now he lived in a small studio in the suburbs, relying on temporary jobs to survive. His presence on social media had become a classic example of how not to treat employees. Business students used his case as a study in the consequences of corporate prejudice. "Daddy, why is that lady on TV talking about you?" asked Thomas, now 3 years old, during one of the rare visits Victoria allowed. Richard didn't know how to explain to his son that he had become synonymous with corporate injustice. Channel 7 regularly aired Monica's story as part of a series on overcoming adversity and social justice. That same afternoon, Monica received an unexpected call. "Miss Santos? This is Dr. Patricia Williams. I have some interesting news. Richard Blackstone tried to get a job at our firm." "Really?" Monica laughed genuinely. "He was, of course, turned down immediately. But I thought you might like to know that he mentioned your name during the interview. He said he learned a valuable lesson, and that he deeply respected your professionalism." "He respected my professionalism," Monica repeated, savoring the irony. "How interesting. Learning to respect people after losing everything." The transformation in Monica's life had transcended the professional realm. She had bought her mother a house in Jamaica, paid for 3 nephews to go to college, and established a foundation to support domestic workers who were victims of discrimination. Her most recent cases included exposing a labor exploitation scheme in millionaires' homes and investigating a network of employers who shared blacklists of employees based on racial prejudice. "Dr. Williams," Monica continued, "I think Mr. Blackstone really learned something important. Unfortunately, he learned it too late." 3 days later, Monica was speaking at a university when a student raised her hand. "Miss Santos, have you ever felt the urge to take personal revenge on the man who humiliated you?" Personal revenge? Monica thought for a moment. No. The best revenge was to build something bigger than he could ever imagine. While he lost everything because of his prejudices, I gained a career, a life mission, and the satisfaction of knowing that my story protects other people. The audience applauded enthusiastically. Monica had become a symbol of how to turn injustice into purpose, humiliation into motivation. That night, while reviewing contracts in her office, Monica received a message on LinkedIn. It was from a young black lawyer. "Miss Santos, your story inspired me not to give up when I faced discrimination at my office. Today I got my promotion. Thank you for showing me that truth and determination always win." Monica smiled as she put her phone away. This was the true measure of her success, not just her own transformation, but how many other lives she had positively impacted. Richard Blackstone had tried to destroy her based solely on the color of her skin and the assumption that people like her couldn't defend themselves. Ironically, by attacking her, he had given Monica all the tools she needed to build an empire based on protecting others like her. Justice had been served perfectly. While Richard humbly learned that prejudice has devastating consequences, Monica thrived, proving that true strength lies not in subjugating others, but in lifting them up. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying those who hurt you, it's building something so great that their evil becomes completely irrelevant. Richard tried to humiliate a cleaning lady and ended up creating one of the most respected investigators in the country. If this story of transformation and justice touched you, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. Have you ever faced a situation where you had to prove your worth to someone who underestimated you? Share your experience. Stories like Monica's prove that our origins never determine our destiny, only our determination.